what I'm excited about for this is I have a philosophy degree. And,
it's amazing.
Oh, my God. And what was the most interesting, one, it was the most ridiculed degree, but how many people would take just one philosophy class because of their electives and come to me like, oh, my gosh, it was the greatest class I ever took. Confronting death was one that everybody was like, I took that and it was amazing. Morality, those types. But the one philosophy course out of my tenure that impacted me the most was metaphysics. It was so like everything else is more mental exercise.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what is moral. Okay, well, here's 4 different people's understanding of morality. You balance them, deconstruct them, everything. But what's cool about metaphysics is not only does it present you new ways of thinking, but it almost literally shatters the reality as you understand it.
Yes, that's what's so exciting about it. I feel like so silly when I like say like terms like metaphysics or something like that, because then I'm like, oh wait, what is metaphysics? And I have to like think about it, and I'm like, oh, like I don't know. But I'm just like, my mind is like going blank again.
No, it's fine. You ready to start?
Yes.
So I love that term, think tank. Think tank. I mean, you know what a think tank is? Like, how's a think tank go, Jim?
Yeah, they got cancel culture nowadays. You gotta watch what you say. It's getting real scary out here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know if I can take the conversation here, but we might as well. It's the Rethink Tank. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the Rethink Tank.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining us again. In today's episode, we're going to get a little metaphysical, and we're going to test the bounds of reality and see if we could come to terms. Man, I left that water bottle there. Come to terms with our relationship with our soul, to this plane, and to the rest of this existence. And I have a great person to join me to kind of start experimenting and parsing apart these difficult conversations. And Danielle, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I couldn't be more excited to launch pad right into this. So let's start with kind of a foundation of terms and understanding so we could really get into the conversation.
Definitely, go ahead.
As Hyperions, one that has become conscious of their higher self, we seek to actualize our higher self and become transformed into a living archetype. We are eternal minds gaining higher levels of lucidity in this shared dream. Mm-hmm. Our body is an avatar for experiencing the material world. We are an eternal subjectivity that yearns for meaning. We desire purpose. We are eternal minds called monads, a living system of mathematical energy. A lot of this information was presented through a YouTube channel called Morgue. What do you remember what the gentleman's name is?
That's his name.
That's his name?
Yeah.
And that's the channel's name too?
That's the channel's name too, yes.
All right, so go check out Morgue. He looks like a Targaryen from House of Dragons.
He used to be in the Freak Show, so he likes to still have the long blonde hair.
That's exactly, and he's got the scar, just like what's his face. Anyway,
but he's very rational. Hyperions, we go about everything with logic and reason. So when I was actually looking up, I used ChatGPT the other day, and
yes.
I hadn't used it before, and everyone's like, oh, use ChatGPT, and I just decided to type in Hyperionism, and I got this terrible response where it was like narcissistic, overbearing, thinks they're better than other people, and I was like, that is like not at all like what we're about or how we see the world or anything.
So what's the refutation of ChatGPT? What's your response?
I actually I have the photo of what it said if you want me to read it.
Sure.
Okay, let's look at it. Yeah, it was like so off. I was like, what even is this? And it mentioned Morgue, and it made me laugh because I was like,
really?
oh, it actually like knows who like Morgue is. Like ChatGPT like knows who Morgue is. Like it was so funny. Okay, Hyperionism is a relatively new belief system that was created by a person who goes by the name of Morgue, who claims to have revealed secret knowledge from hidden sources that can help humanity evolve and transcend its limitations. Which it's not, I mean, it's secret knowledge, if you want to call it secret knowledge, but it's just knowledge that people don't know about because Catholicism and Christianity has been so overbearing and hiding these secrets. And if, in 325 AD, Catholicism and Christianity was backed by the Roman Emperor Constantine, which made Christianity like so much more powerful, and was able to do these things like ban these books and hide these books, these gospels or what have you, from allowing people to even explore these ideas. And so for it to say that it's hidden knowledge, I mean, like, it is kind of hidden knowledge just because people don't know about it. You know,
I truthfully, outside of obviously there's a more spiritual element to this conversation, but I do think there's a whole slew of lost knowledge. I mean, look at the pyramids. It's very ironic that you have similar types of structures across the world,
right,
with the same type of configuration to the stars and each other, the equator, everything else.
It's incredible.
And again, we just sit here and scratch our heads. There's one somewhere in South America where, again, similar pyramid, but it's essentially buried entirely. So it's this giant, what looks like mound of dirt, but once through topography, you learn that there's like a giant pyramid under this thing. Wow. And it's like, how did that get there? What made this? I do truly believe, I mean, look at churches. Let's go down that road.
Yeah.
You have something like churches where they all come to like the same similar steeple. They have organs that are 4 or 5 stories tall. And again, that's a lost science. These are like buildings we can't recreate. If a new Catholic church or a Christian church, have you seen the Righteous Gemstones? Laughably, when they want to open up a new church, what do? They don't go buy real estate, build a real church.
No.
We just rent out a closed out Sears.
Yeah, like a building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we're in crummy buildings now, but there's clearly something more to the old archetype. Or architecture, where it's like you have. And
they can't even replicate it. They don't even know how.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is amazing. I mean, I think there's something to be said about that in and of itself. But I don't know. That's
well. So I think there's a lot of lost knowledge, and I think once there's people in power and they have their own agendas and they have their own game plans, they use knowledge. I mean, knowledge is power. So they use those types of avenues to control. So they have to manipulate the information.
And I think what it really comes down to is a lot of it is power, and that a lot of the government and not just the government, but the 1%, the billionaires, are trying to like dim people down to not let them become self-aware and to realize their actual potential, and just keep them in this robotic mindset of working 9 to 6 every day, or 7:45 a.m. to 6 o'clock every day, like I was doing for myself for a while. And it's really just not a way to live, because you're just putting yourself in a redundant, dead mindset where you're not growing mentally and you're not growing physically, and it's hurting you. And that's what they want. They just want to keep you as a dim being.
100%.
And that's...
And again, it's from the chemicals in our water to the foods they feed us,
definitely.
Again,
always.
A giant deadly virus strickens the world. And no, we don't want you going to the gym. You're not allowed to get sun. Stay inside. It's for the better.
Yeah, that pandemic was... We could get all into that. That was
avoiding that road. So let's talk about a lot of this was presented through Plato and Carl Jung, talking about archetypes and how they're powerful structures in the unconscious that direct and control your life unbeknownst to you. Think of them like programs that run in the background, constantly influencing what you do and how you behave. They exist within your unconscious. And so there's a lot at play here. I want to just present one last thing, and then you take the floor. Please. Joe Rogan all the time talks about music and how it clearly does more than just sound good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen...
music therapy is a huge thing.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And again, So first, let me present the point. And it's, if you've ever seen like sound waves going through a plate with sand on it, and like every tone, even depending on its volume, makes a totally different like snowflake structure.
Yeah, different pattern, completely, yes.
And to pretend that's not doing something inside of us, right? Like music clearly is beyond just this, fun thing that sounds good. It clearly is doing something internally, especially when we run on frequencies and vibrations.
Absolutely. So we run on wavelength to begin with, sinusoidal waves, like sine and cosine waves is like the fundamentals of like existence.
Don't you remember being in like 9th, 10th grade and you're like, I don't need this? Like
all this? Yeah, it was craziness, but it's actually the fundamentals of existence itself. So
explain.
Oh my God. So let me get into that because I don't want to talk about anything I don't know, but Morg talks about it a lot, and the mathematics behind it is quantum. It has to go into like quantum mechanics and what did he call it? But either way, so you mentioned earlier about Carl Jung, which we were talking about Mark. He refers to Carl Jung a lot because that's his favorite philosopher. And when we're talking about like Hyperionism, it's all about like looking within and seeing yourself for like who you really are, which is an eternal mind. And this whole universe, this whole existence is based on the one, or the eternal mind, or the monad, the one, monad. And Carl Jung said, he who looks within, or he who looks outside dreams, and he who looks within awakens. And it's basically saying, when you're just living your life outside, not looking inward and you're just living a mundane life, you're not awakening spiritually, mentally, physically, or anything. You're just being that kind of not growing person. But when you look within yourself and see who you really are, then you truly awaken. So it's very interesting.
But again, that's the hardest piece, right? Because so much of it is like you have to break your ego.
I know, and a lot of people just don't know about even doing it. Like when I say becoming like self-aware, it's people don't even understand the concept to begin with, just like blows my mind. But you have to think about it. Everybody gets there at their own pace, and you have to think even one time before you weren't self-aware, think totally about when you were in 9th grade, like you were saying, or when you were just a kid, you weren't self-aware yet. And everybody's going to get there eventually. And even if it's not in this lifetime, which kind of gets into like reincarnation and stuff like that. And like when you're reincarnated, apparently, this is everything we're going to talk about is just theories, because we can't say for certain this is the way that it is. We're not saying we know anything. This is just theories, because we don't know how the universe works entirely. You can't say, oh, I know this for sure, And that's why I didn't like earlier that it said like, oh, that we have like all this secret knowledge and that we're better than everybody else. Like, we don't think we're better than anybody else or that anything is, we have these theories and we want to present them to people because we think people should know them. And, but yeah, sorry, I got off on a tangent there. Anyway, so it's important that we look inward and get there at our own pace. And the incarnation thing that I was talking about earlier is that if you don't get there in this lifetime, then you're going to go into what's called like the death current, which is kind of like a dreamlike state, because people ask like, what happens when you die, right? Well, it's kind of like a dreamlike state, and you might not know that you're dead, or you might know that you're dead depending on how self-aware you were in your life, but maybe not. It just depends, Again, just theories. And you, depending on your self-actualization in life, depends on how, like, I don't want to say like next level up you're going to get in your next life, but like think about like a dog, for instance. Yeah. Is he self-aware at all? No. But like you have those dogs that are so super smart, right? Why wouldn't they be incarnated as a human in the next life? Like, it's almost like they're a human trapped inside there, right? Like, that's just my own theory. I don't want to like put that into Hyperionism, but like,
let's talk about something. Yeah, you've kind of touched about reincarnation, and I'm trying to figure out the context at which I was presented it. But there's been instances of people that like, oh, that's it. Again, like, take it with a grain of salt. You really don't know unless you live it. But there's people that think of themselves as mediums.
Yeah.
And when you talk to them, they talk about speaking to dogs and how dogs
Interesting.
are like conscious. And again, so
Everything
let's
is
get to
conscious in
let's get
its
to
own
the
way, yeah.
concept of like, yeah, they're even talking that we've now have science that proves that plants think and are conscious.
Right. But
So what if that is to, I think, now I'm going to present
because everything
my,
is consciousness, but self-awareness is a different thing. But yeah, go ahead.
totally. But I'm going to present kind of the position, because again, in 10 years, I'm going to have a totally different perspective on life.
Yeah.
And so kind of the perspective I hold currently is, we both agree, I think there's a higher power.
Yes.
Whatever title you give that is just based on the book that kind of, compromised you.
Right.
But it's all the same God. It's all the same life.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever seen Rick and Morty, but they
I
have
did, yes. Oh,
they have
yeah, I
like
love Rick
a
and Morty.
game where they go to Dave and Buster's type's place, and I can't remember the character's name.
There's so many episodes too.
But like Rick goes and plays this game where he lives a whole life as like this character Rob or something, and then they're like, oh my God, he's taking Rob off they're taking Roy off the grid, and like he lived an entire life as this character in a game, and then
Yeah.
like anyway.
I think I remember that episode. Yeah.
I think it's like, you're being tested. How good is your soul?
Yeah.
And the more you get compromised by the dark arts that are among us, and the more you fall victim into the materialism of this place,
Yes.
the more you got to keep learning. I think we are these higher powers. We're angel-like that we need to
Godlike.
prove. Well, that's where I think you and I are going to reach the divide, because I do think Morg has a lot of structural understanding of metaphysics, this reality. He has all the terms, but I do think he uses it to manipulate the narrative just enough. It's still accurate.
I agree.
But I think it's manipulated towards the Satanist side.
You think
Because
so?
let me present this point then.
We don't believe in religion though, so it's
Before
like.
we
Go
get
ahead.
to reincarnation, I want to get to then a Satanist position. The Satanists believe, those that feel that there is a God and want to follow the light of God, and really, I don't care what your book is, just having a structured moral compass is kind of really what that provides.
Right.
And so there's people on this plane that, they've killed their ego. They realize that I'm in a tribe of 7.5 billion. This thing we're doing is bigger than me. Whether I succeed or fail, like all the time, people go, I can't believe you just talked about trans kids. And it's like, if that makes you uncomfortable, or my employer needs to fire me because I said something about it,
Right.
that job, then this gets back to the crazy Jim Carrey stuff. The entity called Alexander is so less important than the kids that are being pumped full of chemicals to kill them or whatever. Or not kill, like to manipulate their chemistry, to make them
Right.
compromised, whatever the
Right,
case may be.
right.
Whether I'm right or wrong, you either stand for something or you don't. And a lot of these, and in this life, you can either stand for something because it promotes yourself, and sometimes the promotion of yourself does help other people. Or you could stand up for yourself, or you could do things that, regardless of you, promote the betterment of the people.
Like humanity. Yeah.
Humanity.
Yeah.
And so again, a lot of this project, it's for the kids. Like there's a sex traffic trade. Like this
I
this
know.
thing is so big. Me being able
that
to
1% I was
go
telling you.
clock into the office tomorrow is so less important to what's happening to that kid right now as we're talking here comfortably with mimosas. Now, let's get to the Satanists in comparison. I believe there is a God, and I'm trying to do what I can to promote his goodness, love. Satanists believe you are your own God, and you can control this. In fact, you're stronger than God. You're better than God. Screw it, that guy means nothing.
Yeah, I
And
don't
in the
like that.
reality, but that's the
But yeah,
book.
I'm
I'm not
saying-
saying this guy is Satanist,
Right.
but I'm saying he definitely is pushing the theme of you
You
are
are
in
a
control.
God.
You are a
Right,
God.
yeah.
You are in control of your own
Not
destiny.
better than God. You just are a God.
Right, but
yeah.
that's the Satanist. I'm saying
Right, that's the
he's
Satanist.
he's pushing the perspective of you are your own God. and you are in control of this thing, which again, some other people would say that there's its own divine destiny, and this other narrative is saying you can hijack that divine destiny and control it yourself. A lot of what they operate on is karma. The whole Satanist position is karma. If I wrong you, like, do a weekend, do something like a weekend concert performance, right? The Weeknd, the guy.
Okay.
You do a concert performance that uses these frequencies and the devil's note to manipulate your subconscious and hijack you. We get away with those types of things as long as, now I've kind of gotten a little narrative, but we get away with those things if karmically I can put in front of you that we're doing it. So they'll do these things and then put on the board Satan. And I have on the screen there a picture of like
Weeknd did that?
The Weeknd was doing a performance and in giant bold letters Satan.
Really? Wow.
A lot of the whole
Weeknd.
thing is we're trying to hijack you, your consciousness, your goodness. And the way we get away with it is by, we told you. And they'll say it in a laughing manner. Like, yeah, no, we just, sacrificed a child to the thing. Yeah, okay. And they say it like hyperbole, comedic, whatever. And I'm being ultra hyperbolic as I'm using. Like, these examples are ultra hyperbolic. I respect that.
One company,
Yeah, Wayfair or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah,
No. The Kanye West one.
the ball, what was it called? Bogli, I don't remember the name, but it was like this whole huge like sex trafficking children scandal.
Balenciaga. Okay,
yes.
so you have Balenciaga. They go, hey,
So
we're doing weird things with kids.
Yeah,
But hey, we're doing it
clearly.
in front of you. We put it out there. We put it out in the universe. So the karma can't come back. So karma's a thing, they believe. I think it probably
Why
is.
would they think it can't come back to them even though they're putting it out in the open like that?
Well, because so the way karma works is if I do wrong to you.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to punch you and I go, if I just punch you, karma's going to come back and bite me in the ass.
Okay.
But if I go, Danielle, I'm going to punch you. Don't let me punch you. And you just sit there and then I punch you.
Right. Okay.
I have hijacked the karma because I told you and you should have known. And again, I don't know if I agree with that or not. It's its own thing.
I see the concept,
but it's
though.
a belief
Yeah,
of theirs that
right.
they use karma to hijack the divine will, let's say. So to me, all of his position is about hijacking your destiny, taking it
Yeah.
because you're your own God.
But is that really Satanism, hijacking your destiny?
No, I would like to say no, but I do think in the spirit of, like, again.
Because he's saying that we're all gods and
Yeah.
that we control. But he's not saying that we're better than God, just that we are in control. Like, it goes into the monotheism that we're going to be talking about.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
So monotheism is the idea that there's only one God and that, it's just a universal, like the one God, and that's it. There's not all these other gods, and it's just you. Like, it's the eternal mind. I mean, monotheism can go into like a lot of different things, but like Hyperianism kind of branches off of monotheism in a way because it's saying that the eternal mind is the God. It's not saying like, and we're using the word God, but it's so much more than that. It's not just that. It's like this God and like somebody in the sky and the clouds. Like, it's more than that. It's a
divine
power.
spirit.
It's a
Yeah,
divine. It's the one.
everywhere.
It's that made everything. And when you think about the beginning of time, or at the beginning of the universe, or the beginning of everything, they say, oh, in the beginning there was nothing, and then suddenly there was a big bang. No, you can't imagine nothingness.
One of the craziest
physically
concepts in
can't.
metaphysics class that I've taken with me forever. Crazy. Hold this forever, folks. What is nothing? What is nothing? The second I go, there's nothing, it's something.
It's something.
So the second, and that's what the
Yeah.
professor did. He said, if I said outside this window is nothing, it's officially something. Nothing is beyond
Nothing
your
is still
understanding of
something.
nothing.
Yes.
It is literally zero. And that can't happen. Here's the other thing.
Yeah.
Tell me if you ever related to this. In high school, there were people I'm going to cut his name out.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I remember.
I would talk to this guy all the time about, like, what is outside of this? Like, this experience we're having right now, what is outside of it? And you're trying to, like, think, like, what was life like before? Here's what I think. I think we're in a video game, like the Roy game
Like
or
the
whatever
Matrix?
it is.
Yeah.
We're being tested. Our soul's being tested to see if we are worthy of entering the divine light because we're good souls, or we've been compromised by the dark. But the concept is, I think there's limitations. Like if you ever try to truly, like, just sit there, pause the video, like, try to sit there
And think
and
about
think
nothing.
outside there's like, if you ever play Grand Theft Auto and you're like, your character's running and the map stops but the road continues and your guy's just standing in place, just running there, and it's like, wait, but I see a whole road and there's more to this, there's more to the understanding, there's more, but I'm trapped in this one little realm, in this one little city, but I can see the road continue. That's how it feels about, like, some forms of thinking that exceed, when you try to really explore our reality, there seems to be some limitations.
Right.
Whether that's the limitation of our monkey brain or
physics,
that's part of the
or
game.
math, yeah.
But let's get back to, like, the eternal reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you earn your right up the ladder.
Yeah.
And you screw yourself down the ladder. You were Jeffrey Dahmer. Now you're going to be a tree.
Right.
Like, that's how it, like,
tree.
And,
I love
and
it.
you know what? Because
awesome.
some things feel like, here's what I think. This is hubris, ego, truthfully, but I do truly feel it. Most of the people in my circle, it does feel like there is an eternal understanding that I have beyond them, just naturally. Like, where my starting place was just a little bit higher, and I'm building off of that just like they are. But I felt like there was, like, I already had part of the deck that I'm building off of. And I say that because I feel like some things, whether you don't realize it, but you've carried with you through the eternal to another,
Through past lives.
yes, through past lives.
100%.
And I want to get to, like, how crazy is it that there's series of videos of, like, babies, like 1, 2, 3 years old, and they're like, Mom, my plane flew into the World Trade Center. It was so hot. It was so hot.
Like, what?
Or Mom, I was on the Titanic, the unsinkable ship, and it was so cold. It was so cold. And it's like, you're nowhere near old enough to even know what those are. No one taught you what these were.
I know.
And it's innate. There's something.
How can they know that?
And then we train it out of them too, right?
know.
No, it's a dream.
They close their third eye after, like, 13,
You nailed
14, something like that. It's so sad to see. That's more of that dimming that I was talking about earlier. And it just kind of happens naturally, too, but it also is society and, the world or whatever. But it's so sad. I used to, when I was a kid, I used to see, like, crazy stuff. Like,
Can we hear some?
yeah, okay, so my house was haunted when I was a kid. The house I was growing up in, not when I was, like, super, super young in Dayton, but the Cleveland house. And I think it was my fault because in middle school, I was that gothic kid or whatever. And I remember in 6th grade, I come to the cafeteria table and my friends are playing with this weird piece of paper called the Ouija board.
No. You opened that door?
I opened that door and I had no idea what it was.
I truly am petrified of.
Oh, God,
I'm
it was-
petrified of those.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And yeah, so I come to the table and they're like, oh, this is like this fun game or whatever. And, like, they had made it on a piece of paper or some shit. I'm like, what even is this?
What?
Like, you can literally draw it and use it and take a piece of paper, tear a hole in it, and use it as the planchette. It's absolutely disgusting, and it works just fine. And, yeah, it's so messed up. And you can summon all the spirits you want with a piece of paper. And, so anyway, I started to get into that and the occult or whatever. And I remember this one time. I I started to get into a little bit of witchcraft too. And I was like, oh, I really like this boy in middle school who we will not name because he knows exactly who he is.
Dude, I loved.
Oh God, I
used to
was
fish
so
with him a
in
lot.
love with him, and I was so dorky. He wanted nothing to do with me. He would always like ignore me in front of his friends too. We are gonna cut all this out. And yeah, so
Kids.
yeah, and I remember I was like, I'm gonna make this spell where I'm gonna be able to see my future husband in my dream. And so I did like this weird spell or whatever and put it under my pillow. And that night I had like the most vivid dream ever of like
Who'd
this
you meet?
indoor of this indoor water park. And it was a very tall man with blonde hair. And
Morg walked off the
I know,
beach.
Morg. I fucking love Morg. Anyway, and it's not a cult, okay? No, I just, it's logic and reason, okay? No, anyway. So he was surfing, but he was really far away, so I couldn't, like, see him very well. So I have no idea to this day who the man was, but apparently it was my future
Morg.
husband. Yeah, it was Morg. It had to be, but... No, anyway, let's get back to the haunted part. So I was playing with the Ouija board in my house one time with my best friend, Lacey. I still talk to her to this day, but we're not as close as we were, unfortunately. But so when we were playing with it, my dad was calling me from downstairs. He's like, oh, come on, we gotta go. You know how parents get angry and they're like, let's go right now. And I was like, oh, we gotta go. So we just take the Ouija board, fold it in half and just throw it in the trash. I'm like, you're supposed to say bye. Like, you have to say goodbye or else you will let the spirit loose into the house. And at that point, we were talking to some entity.
You have to say bye.
You have to say goodbye. Okay? It's like a thing.
Don't ghost the ghost, baby.
Yeah, don't ghost the ghost. I don't know. It's apparently they get offended. No, it's just that you leave the portal open.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
so
the way to close the portal is a classic English greeting.
it's goodbye.
Depart.
Yeah. Goodbye. No, so
Adios, mis amigos.
I guess it got loose, and yeah, shit was never the same after that. Like, I could tell you some crazy, insane stories about the shit that would happen.
Yeah,
You
we
remember the
have some.
field trip that we went on during
For DC?
Washington? Yeah. So my mom is like a clean freak. Sorry, mom, but like she was just rampant about clean house, all that stuff. So I remember before DC, she's like, "You gotta clean your house. You gotta clean your room. You gotta clean your room." I was like, "Okay." So I cleaned my room like totally fucking spotless, right? It was like the most immaculate clean room ever. And like this was when that demonic entity or whatever was like really rampant in my room. And I come back from DC and my room was like destroyed. And I'm not saying like my siblings went in there and like threw shit around. Like I'm talking dresser drawers pulled out, like bed sheets pulled off, doors, all the closet doors open because I had 2 closet doors. Like shit was just all fucked up. And I go to every single one of my siblings and I'm like, did you go in my room and do that? And they're like, what are you even talking about? Like, you know how you can tell when someone's lying? None of them knew anything what I was talking about. And even my brother told me one time, this is like later on or whatever, but he asked me, he's like, hey, I was sleeping last night and my bag of Cheetos flew up in the air. And like, this is like Christian loving, would never tell a lie.
That was Will.
Brother. Like, what? You know? And then my sister thought she was possessed at one point. Like, just shit was happening in the house that like, she didn't even know I had a demon in my room. And she was like thinking she was possessed. Like, what even is that? It was so crazy, but
Really?
yeah, and other stuff. And I moved to the basement bedroom eventually because I was just like, I'm getting the fuck out of this room. Like, this is so messed up. And then it followed me into the basement, but I couldn't actually enter the basement bedroom because I had like placed salt or whatever. And like, I was getting into Christianity at that point, and I was really trying to protect myself with God because, you know, demonic entity, God. I was like, okay, well, God protect me. So, yeah, I was like super scared. But I'm telling you, like, I would like grab the Bible and shit would like stop. It was insane. Like, I would feel like a presence and my hair would get pulled.
So, question for you.
Yeah, it was madness.
As somebody that takes the position that government entities compromise the book by taking things out, changing things, and I think that's obviously pretty
Yeah.
understandable. How does that printed paper book still have the like? It's crazy that a bunch of written symbols on a piece of paper in a kid's room brings the demon, and then the series of stories with some of the stories missing, now compromised by, you know, dictators, that stops the entities.
I
So
know.
the kids' paper brings the entities half the story. Because again, I'm calling it half a book because I think we could build the understanding that it's not the totality of when it first was constructed. So
Right.
you've got like
Right.
part of the book stops it, kids' paper brings them in.
But I
How does
think
that
it's
work?
mentality. I think it's mentality in the end. Like,
Yes.
it's just.
Can I tell you something crazy?
Yeah.
So, okay, they have this new AI is expanding at the nth degree.
I'm going to tell you something about last night, but go ahead.
There was this AI that was, they've created an AI that can show when I'm looking at a camera. So the camera is the AI, like the AI system's in the camera, and there's something to where when I
a
look
VR
at it,
headset?
it's picking up something totally different, and the metadata to that video changes. And so now AI would be able to determine when a living human being looks at it, or when it's a hologram, when it's an image, when it's
Wow.
fake, a human being projects something to where the computer can tell the metadata has changed. And so again, there's something to that. Like,
It's wavelengths.
how about this? It feels like there's nothing between us, right?
Yeah, but there
But
is.
there is no empty space.
Yeah.
When I push, things moved out of the way and was pushed at you.
Absolutely.
Have you ever been scuba diving?
I wish.
I need to.
Oh wait, I've been I went to the Bahamas and like
Did
the
you
wetsuit. and all that
snorkel?
stuff. I
No, you
snorkeled.
scuba. Okay.
I snorkeled. Yes.
I will say this: snorkeling is amazing.
I'd love.
It
To
really
scuba dive,
is.
though. That
But
looks so
like
cool.
once you go scuba diving, you'll never snorkel in your life.
Yeah, I believe it.
And what's
God.
me and my sister are obsessed. We're certified. We're huge into scuba
That's
diving.
so nice.
And I encourage any person listening, you have to do it at least once in your life, because you get the full effect of how you're in a different existence.
Dude, all life started in the ocean. There was nothing on land.
It's
Like,
silent,
it's all
but
that.
if I go this is how I get your attention underwater. Just going like this.
Really?
It sounds like a gunshot.
Because like the wavelength.
Just like the way the
water?
pocket of your hand, it's like pow, 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 like a gunshot.
That is so cool.
So everything's silent, but you can hear everything. It's the wildest experience.
Are you
And to
serious?
think, that's the same. Like their water is our air. It's the same thing. They don't see something between the fish and the shark.
Yeah.
To their experience, it's just, this is it.
Right.
And there's something weird up there, and when we go up there, we can't breathe. But they don't feel the material between them.
Wow.
And I say that because it's easier for us to understand. Like, picture this is our water, and
I know, yeah.
we can't taste it, we can't feel it, we don't experience it because it's moot to us.
Right.
But it's there, it's affecting us totally all the time.
And think about like insects and other beings that see the world in a completely different way. Like you have dragonflies and like flies, for instance, that can see like infrared. They see the world in a totally different way than we do. Like, and dogs, for instance, they don't even see it like with sight, really. They see with their nose. If they have like a bag of like herbs, they can sense the garlic, they can sense the basil, they can sense the rosemary. They're going to smell all those individual herbs single, as opposed to us who's just going to smell like a whiff
One.
of herbs together. They're going to be able to pick out every single identifying herb in that bag, which of course, including marijuana. So, that's just, and they're seeing it on a totally different, it's just mind blowing, I can't imagine what we're missing out. And the fact that we only use 10% of our brain or something. I don't remember the statistic.
Right, no, that's
but
it.
It's something like super small. And that's really a lot about bringing your unconscious conscious, just being able to access that mode of existence. If you think about dreaming, when you become lucid in a dream, have you ever had a lucid dream
I
before?
have not been fortunate enough.
That's okay.
I think I may, sometimes, but
Yeah.
never consciously I'm living in another plane.
Yeah, well, it's a very amazing experience. I've had it quite a few times. I remember you earlier talking about being a medium. I know some people say, "Oh, I'm a medium and I talk to spirits and stuff." I don't like when people say that they're a medium. I think if you have the real ability to do things, I don't think you're going to brag about it, you know? I think you're going to be able to say that you are a medium without saying you're a medium, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that there's definitely people who can do things that we can not, just because that they've expanded their unconsciousness and consciousness in a way that we haven't yet. And everybody's going to get to that place eventually. And we're going to get to that place, you know, everybody's going to get there eventually. And I think just some people have it more than others. And if you really try hard enough, you can do it too, you know? And I feel like that's kind of the reason why I got haunted, was because I saw things when I was a kid, you know, and I felt like I already had that mode of existence, or whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I've always kind of had something like around me, if you want to say. And then I felt like I just didn't know how to deal with it. And then playing with the Ouija board just kind of exacerbated it. But then if you think about it, like you were saying, well, how come like praying on the Bible made it all go away? It's like, I feel like it's just a mentality at the end of the day, because it's just how you perceive it, you know? And it's whether or not, I don't know. It's
because
hard
again,
to explain.
I want to believe that somebody on a different block of dirt, when they are impacted by demons, they grab their Quran.
Yeah.
And it has the same impact.
Right.
I feel like when you get what I mean? Like, because
do.
first off, I
that
think they're
reminds
all
me.
talking about the same God.
Yeah.
And that's it. So really, I think when you grab that object, it expels something in you.
Yes.
That, like, whether it isn't the book, it's what you're making of the book.
It's your wavelengths, it's your energy that's like getting put out there, that's expelling that negative energy, I think.
And so let's get to even a more unique point. Like, you're talking about kids playing with Ouija boards. Once you see it, like, back to like the karma thing, symbols will be the death of them, but they need the symbols to combat karma.
I wanted to say something about karma, but go ahead.
No. So write the note.
Yeah.
So what I will say is, when it comes to kids in this world, like at a very young age, so the symbols will be the death of them. It's everywhere. You watch it in television, kids shows, movies, the emblems, the talk, the language, the concepts are there. What would make a 14-year-old make a Ouija board? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like why would they do that?
So back to, there's a couple themes here. Hidden, lost, suppressed knowledge, secret knowledge, as you put it. Well, what's the purpose of that? Well, if you know a Ouija board's going to bring a freaking dinosaur into your bedroom, you're not going to do that.
Right.
But if we kill that knowledge, but then also make it look really fun on iCarly,
Right?
you're going to do it.
Yes.
And
That's
you're going to
so
think it's
true.
cute because you also don't think it's real.
Yeah.
So you're like, let's just see what happens.
Let's just see what happens.
And then the next
Exposes
thing
an
you
entire
know,
demon.
your dresser is on top of your bed. And you're
My
like,
whole dresser was shaking, and the laundry was not going at night. So like sometimes the laundry, my room was like right below the laundry, and if the laundry was going, my dresser would shake a little bit. The dresser was shaking that night. I go downstairs, nothing's in the laundry. I shit you not. Not a single piece of clothing wasn't even turned on, and my whole dresser was shaking. It was clacking. Like
that stuff's so real. It's so real. And again, now we're lucky because we live in a world where if you're quick enough, you could try to catch it like on a video. And
yeah, that's true. We have, like, video
most of
stuff
these people
now.
were just written off as schizophrenic, but now it's like you're seeing more and more of it, and it's making it more and more real.
It's very true.
So what was your comment about karma?
Oh, well, okay, so this is kind of how I've come to terms with, like, good and evil and, like, heaven and hell, basically. I think it really comes down to how you feel when you're doing something evil. Like, how does that make you feel when you're doing something evil? Not that you did something evil. Like, say, like, some people get, like they had to murder somebody because they're getting attacked, right? They didn't murder them because they wanted to. But did it make them feel good when they murdered that person?
Can I give you just
You know,
real quick,
like,
I want you to finish your thought.
That's what
I have to drop. This is when I told you in philosophy they present you like 20 different versions of morality. Excuse me. The one that resonated with me the most was Kant. Kant's perspective on morality is exactly how you presented it. If you help an old lady across the road, to help the old lady across the road,
And not for
it's
views.
moral. But if you help the lady across the road because you see a girl watching you and it'll make you look good to that
Right.
girl,
Right.
this same exact act is considered immoral. So I do think you're 100% right. Intention and all of that really peddles the karma behind it. And unfortunately, if you're an unconscious being and you're just out here acting without any regard, you're gonna walk right into the bear trap. You're going to fall victim to, acts that push the negative karma. Let me pick your brain on some things though.
It's so funny that we got into talking about like God and like all this stuff because we were supposed to be talking about monotheism and the nightmare of being God, but now it's like, how do we even get into that?
Well, no, tell me. Okay, let's take that as the segue.
Okay.
So what would be the nightmare?
What would
of
be the
being God?
opposite of the universe of being God, right? Like, imagine that you are God, right? You are the only being to have ever existed, and you are the only being to think you have ever existed, is what I'm trying to say. You are literally the only thing that will ever exist, has ever existed, period, right? And so you're lonely. What do you do, right? Would you make, you have the power to do anything, right? You can make an entire world. You can make other people. Well, would you do that? Would you make other people? You could, but that would just kind of be like making ants, It wouldn't be satisfying. It wouldn't be like talking to you and me, It would just kind of be like, oh yeah, like that's fun to look at, but it's not fulfilling. You're still alone because you're still the only one
It's
in
like
existence.
painting a painting.
Yeah.
I can look at it.
Exactly.
I can enjoy it, but
But-
I can't be there with the monkey.
Exactly. You're still the one who knows you made that painting. The painting doesn't know that you made it, but it's like you're the one who knows everything, and you're still lonely because you've made something, but it's not the same as you. So what would you do? You would try to forget. You would fracture your mind in a sense, and you would forget that you're God, and really you would immerse yourself in the world that you've created. And now I can have that conversation with you, and I'm not lonely anymore. It's called like the nightmare of being God, if you will.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and if,
Wow.
if you think about it, that's what a God would do. Because if you're just an all-knowing being, if you just go and make all these little people and make a tiny little world, then you're still, looking down on them, and you're still lonely, and you've got nothing going on. And anybody left alone would just die.
That's
if you
very
look at
unique.
all the isolation studies and stuff like that. But if you're putting like a human twist on it, but
Yeah, right.
I guess it is kind of putting a human twist on it because that's what humans do.
Right. I was gonna say
put a human twist on everything.
you're
But it's an interesting concept.
100%.
Yeah.
But what's the word I'm fishing for? You're supplying God with like human emotions. But I want to combat that with one perspective.
Go ahead.
Something that I subscribe to is similar. God being all forever existing. What is this plane? So the perfect example that I saw on a TikTok was, let's just say you're the creator of Super Mario World.
Okay.
So you've created a Nintendo, you plug it into the TV, you have this character, and you can control the character, you can manipulate the world. You created that world, but you can never go in that world. You can never go talk to Mario.
Right.
You can only move Mario. You can only change the world. That the creator itself could never go into what it's created. So what is Jesus in the relationship to this? In this theory, the concept is that God then made an avatar, and
Yes.
that was his ability to go into the game and experience the game. Jesus is his created ability to go into the plane that he couldn't break into. And so he'll be forever trapped outside of what he's created, but he was able to come into this plane through an avatar to try to make a connection, but at the same time, all powerful. I can't get over now this is just me talking me. How do you only do that once? That's kind of like you sit
life
there.
Is cyclical.
But
so
again,
you don't remember that you do it multiple times, that you've done it over and over again, that you've fractured and forgotten, and that the game of life is remembering that you are God, and that to get to that point with, to get to that point is the thrill of life, and that once you get to that point, it'll be fun for a while, and then as you become more lonely again, you will begin to forget again and do it all over again, and that's life.
So one thing that's always resonated with me for the longest is we are the universe becoming aware of itself. So whether the universe is God, the universe is some, unconscious entity, whatever the case may be, we are clearly the universe becoming self-aware.
Absolutely.
First it was just rocks and nothing, then organisms that led into multi-celled organisms that turned into conscious organisms that are now going to slowly explore itself to the deepest, farthest corners, right? We'll end up on Mars.
Which is amazing if you think about it. Like, we've come from literally a single cell organism that couldn't even divide until an accident happened where another single cell crashed into it.
But at the same time, you grabbed a book to keep the demon away that says it started in 7 days.
I know.
I created it. I grabbed his rib, made another woman. They ate apples, kicked it with a snake. So the same book that scared away the demon is. So again, there's so many conflicting concepts.
Conflicting concepts. It's what do you believe? In the end of the day, it's what do you.
But here's the biggest key.
What makes you feel right and happy?
What was the operative word you used? Belief. So almost all of the things you're going to lean on is like a belief you've tied yourself to, something that you've convinced yourself of, whether rightfully or wrongfully. Some will be right, some will be wrong, but it's still a belief.
Because you can never know.
I was about to say, so the key is to recognize you'll never have knowledge with a capital K. Right. Until maybe you pass to the next chapter. Mm-hmm. But even then, what I think is hilarious is it's more likely than not you get the answer for a second, like, yes, and you failed. So you're going back. Yeah. And you wipe your memories and you're thrown back in.
I know, that's so crazy. Like the people who say, like the people who've had OBEs, like out-of-body experiences, and they're like, oh, like I died and I saw like the white light. And some people, like, they don't even say that they saw God or anything, just that like they died and they had this amazing experience where they were just enveloped with the white light and they were at peace and they were okay with that existence and that it all comes back to the source, that oneness with the universe, the monad. I don't know, it's just very interesting. And, there's a lot of people who have OBEs that obviously have the God experience as well, but, and that's okay. I mean, I am in no way against Christianity, against Catholics. I mean, I grew up in a Catholic household, and kind of like a little bit of a strict Catholic household in Dayton, because we always went to church on Sundays, and like especially when I was very, very little, I remember like always going to church on Sundays, always dressing my best for church. And as we got a little older, we kind of like didn't go to church as much, but I was always in like vacation Bible school and like religious camp and summer camp and stuff like that. It's just terrible. And then I just remember begging my parents, like, please don't send me to these anymore. Like, I hate it. And so it's like I kind of have like the one side of kind of being like pushed into it a little bit, and then also like they didn't like push it on me either, but I feel like they just wanted to like send me somewhere. Like parents want to do that during the summer and whatever. But at the same time, like it affects you as a child when you tell a child like you're gonna burn in hell if you sin. That's impressionable. As
they live a life of occasional sin, right? Like sin is everywhere.
You can't escape it. And then telling them that they're you know what I don't like about Christianity? I'm not against people who believe or anything, but what I don't like is that Catholics and Christians is that they keep you weak. You know, I'm so weak. I need God. Without God, I am nothing. God, you're my savior. Without you, I'd just be like dust. I don't know. It's like always like making you like the weak, pathetic being, and you need God. And that's what I don't like. And the music is like rhythmic and hypnotic, and it's meant to put you in like a suggestive state that makes you like cry, and it makes you feel weak, and it makes you like want to be with God, and like it's very like it's very abusive in a way almost, you know. But there's that aspect to it, and then that's like being extreme, you know, Christianity or Catholic really, but. And then there's the difference between Christianity is that you're loved by God automatically, right? And then Catholicism is just that you have to do this, and that to get God's love, which makes it like a lot more evil, like mean, I guess you should say. You know, because you're always struggling but with both, you're always suffering. It's like if God loves everybody so much, why would he let Jephthah's daughter be taken as a burnt virgin sacrifice? You know, it's like if he's an all-loving God, why would he let Abraham almost kill Abraham killed his
son
brother,
or
right?
something? Yeah.
Killed his son, almost killed his son. He stopped him before he killed him. And what was the other one? Cain killed his brother, and he let him kill him. And he said, "Where is your brother?" Even though he knew. I mean, he's an all-knowing God. What do you mean, where is your brother? He says, "I don't know. I'm not his keeper." But, you know, he knew what he'd done, and God asked, but why would he ask if he's an all-knowing God? And you know what's so interesting is that the Gnostics, which I really want to get to, is that the Gnostics believed that the God in the Bible is a God, it's actually the opposite of the God that we all know. It's an evil God meant to enslave us here, and it's a God called Yaldabaoth, actually. Or I think it has another name. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But Yaldabaoth was the god created by Sophia. Okay, she was a part of the eternal mind. Sophia is wisdom. It's a thought in the eternal mind. So in the beginning there was no, like the Gnostics believed in the beginning, though there was no world. I mean, how do we even get the world if we don't even have anything yet, right? You can't get to the world if you don't have anything yet. So the Gnostics believed in the beginning there was the one, the monad, the eternal mind, which is thought, and thought does what, and, you know, the mind does what anything does, and it thinks. So it came up with like wisdom, and it came up with you know, all these other terms that we know to be today, like I'm blanking all of a sudden, but Sophia is the most important one because she is knowledge, right? And the great mind, in the great eternal mind, she is knowledge, and everything's working in harmony and pairs in this eternal mind. And she basically broke away from her fated pair and decided to do something on her own. And she decided, she saw that the one was making things, and she decided she wanted to make things too. And if you think about a mind having a thought that thinks away from the other thoughts, like if you think about yourself and a thought decides to do something on its own, that's kind of schizophrenic in a way, right? And so this thought, this Sophia, this wisdom, decided she was going to make a being of her own. And when she made him, it came out very terribly, and she cast him aside because she was disgusted and horrified with what she came up with, and because she didn't use the divine plan, basically, you know, and she basically made it based on the divine plan, but not on the divine plan. And so she cast him away, and this is very rough analogy or description, and she cast him into a lower circle of the mind. And when the one found out what she had done, they cast her into a lower circle above him, but she could never go back to the eternal line of thought, right? Where it's just the oneness and the purity because she's out of sync now, and so she can't go back. So she's stuck with him now. And I don't know what happened in that room. But anyway, so Yaldabaoth made us, right, as his demons or his people. And we're all trapped in his world, but we believe that he is the God or the God of the Bible. And what's funny is that Yaldabaoth said, I am a jealous God, just like God said in the Bible, right? I am a jealous God. There is no other God but me. But in doing so, he released that there was another God, because if there was no other God, then who do they have to be jealous of? So in doing so, he released that knowledge to his minions, if you will. And
it's a logical conundrum.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting concept, but so it says, I am a jealous God, since he didn't know where his power came from, the eternal mind. He told his minions or his demons, if there are no other I am a jealous God, there is no other God but me. And so they said, if there are no other gods, then who do we have to be jealous of, right? And I mean, that's not wrong.
Wait, so
if
can I give you another concept here? I've always, there's just one.
Go ahead.
Who made him? Where'd this thing come from? This goes back to my
mind.
But real quick, this goes back to the thought experiment of when I was young, I could not think outside of what is outside of this.
Because the mind is eternal.
Like
it's always been and always has been. So that's who made.
But
Sophia.
But again, back to your point, who is there to be jealous of? I think there's another thought experiment to be had where it seems like, okay, what is outside of this? It seems like nothing, as in literally nothing, nothingness. But what if there is a God, and that God, like you said, maybe they're not alone, and that God needed something to do, something to keep them occupied, something to keep them from being lonely, whether or not
crazy,
there are other
right.
gods.
It's going crazy, yeah.
So what if this God creates a plane, and similarly, I can't access it. I made my own Super Mario Bros. I made this world. This is my world. I am the only one with this world. And that was its school project in its bedroom. And then literally there's a God next door that made something totally similar. But they have totally different concepts. I'm all loving. I love you. And everything is... And this guy's like, I rule with an iron fist. You do what I say, or there's that classic cartoon.
Palm,
exactly. I'll have all of you in my palm and crush you. So maybe there's just one for us, but there's more than one.
Well, I think that kind of gets into the topic about where do aliens come into all of this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Remember? Yeah, that's like our last topic, kind of. Not like our last topic, but something that I wanted to discuss. So, how do I even get into this? So aliens are kind of like, there's kind of two different kinds of aliens. Okay, so we've got the alien that kind of came from like us. So imagine us as a super evolved life form, right? So humans have always known war and chaos and ugliness, which is really sad. And if you would think about a very evolved, who made the pyramids? A super evolved race of beings.
100, not us.
Where
and
are
not,
they now?
Not a slew of slave Jews. That did not build the pyramid.
Absolutely not. And it wasn't molded bricks either, so stop saying that. And so...
Have you ever seen the videos of someone taking a didgeridoo and picking up a solo cup, whoa, 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 and then moving it to, like, the other side of them?
I think I saw something like that.
It's this concept that, like, you can literally pick things up with sound and wavelengths.
Dude, the pyramids was used for electricity.
100%.
It's granite at the top, which is a huge conductor.
Talk to people that go in it, and they tell you could feel it.
There was
you
any
could hear it
in it either. They never found a single body.
As a kid that grew up obsessed with pharaohs and pyramids, I loved Egypt.
Yes.
To come to find, like... What are you handing books to kids with saying pharaohs were in the pyramids?
It's so wrong.
It's so criminal that I literally, if you were to walk in my bedroom in my parents' house, it's preserved in time.
Really?
And there's just a row of Egyptian books. You could pick one and it says pharaohs were in the pyramids.
Oh my God.
Mind-blowing. And again, back to the winners write history.
I know. It's
So-
that 1% and the government. And all that
Exactly.
stuff. It's just terrible. We need a new form of government. Like
Disband the Smithsonian, destroy the agencies.
Run by the people, but it's not.
It's not at all. We need direct representation. You need to get rid of lobbyists. We need to just clean house.
And you get to pick from 2 people, and that's it.
You know what's crazy?
Last I checked, that's kind of like almost a dictatorship.
You know what I need to do legal research on? I took administrative law. That probably sat with me the most in law school.
Right.
It made me really take up arms against agencies, because you remember government class or social studies
yeah.
when they would say, okay, we've got our 3 branches of government.
Which means nothing.
It means nothing. Our professor would walk in every day and he'd draw the classic, okay, you've got your judicial, executive, legislative. The legislative creates agencies. The judicial limits them.
Oh, limits them, okay.
But they are totally outside of the 3 branches of government. They create themselves. They create their own laws. They're not voted or represented by the people. They are their own entities. And the judicial can limit them. The legislative can create them. But once they're out, they're out. Where's the executive? Where's the policing of them? Doesn't even touch them. It dawned on me. I'm driving for my haircut a couple days ago, and I'm going to spend the next few weeks going deep into this, because I'm realizing there is, so you've got the Don, the orange man comes in and he goes, I'm going to fire everybody. I promise. Round 2, I'm going to clean house. Take me serious in 24. I don't even think that's possible.
It's not.
I truthfully, agencies are so outside of our government.
The president's just a puppet, though.
What? We got a dead guy. There is a dead guy. If that doesn't tell you, he has no effect. And
authority.
The deep state, which is a trigger word, it's like, no. When I say deep state, I'm talking about the head of the NSA, the head of the FCC, the head of the FBI, the head of the C. We don't vote any of them.
None.
And now it's dawning on me, if the president was pissed off enough, I don't think he can fire them.
Do anything about it.
He can't.
He can't do it.
And let's acknowledge the last president to speak up for the people and say, I am going to shatter the CIA into a million pieces. They killed him.
True that.
Like, the last president to speak up. And you know what Joe Rogan says all the time? He's like, if you don't think they bring the president, new president walks in, they take him in a room, press play, show the Kennedy assassination from 10 different angles you never saw, and go, know your place. If you don't think that happens.
Oh my God. That's so scary.
You have people that come in.
So corrupt.
Oh my gosh.
We need a new world order, whatever it means
Don't
for the
say
better.
that. Don't say, we need.
For the better, though. Like,
But that's their words. The new world order, that's their game.
Not based on that. We need it for the people. Like, the people need to make it.
We need
people like you and me.
That I entirely agree with. The sad part is, though, one, fluoride in the water and everything else.
American order,
We're, like you said, we're being dulled. Yeah, that's how you started the episode.
Yeah.
We're being dulled in places. I mean, here I am. This is how I supplied you water. Water that's incrementally in small doses giving you cancer. But that's just how we do it. Orange juice. This is vitamin C. This is giving you sustenance.
Vats. Oh my God, you have no idea about orange juice. It's so insane.
I do. I don't know. Please enlighten me.
Okay, so basically, orange juice, like, it comes... Okay, so, like, a couple corporations own all of
everything.
Orange juice. Yeah, everything. But, like, orange juice, right? Giant, humongous vats of, like, orange juice concentrate where it says, like, oh, it's
Tropicana.
Orange juice, and it's so pure and amazing. Like, no, nothing is orange juice pure at all. Basically, it all comes from, like, these 3 different companies of orange juice suppliers, and these billionaires buy from these companies and supply your orange juice. Isn't that crazy? And it comes from these like single vats of orange juice and Tropicana or the other ones that I'm not remembering all of a sudden. The other major 3 ones, basically, those are the runners in the game. And they all come from the same source.
Have you ever seen the show
insane.
Succession?
No.
Very incredible show. Our buddy Will, he really pushed me. He's obsessed with it. And I'm not done. I'm in the season 3.
What's it
And
about?
it's about the most powerful rich families that run the world. And this one
that like on
family in
Netflix?
particular, it's on HBO.
Okay.
4 seasons, it's done. You could start it.
Nice.
You'll be
I'll go
hooked.
check it out.
It's absolutely incredible. But it's about specifically this one, and obviously the cellular families that interact with them, but it's about this one family that's so rich, money means nothing. Literally nothing. I'll throw $1 million just at you to just get what I want, and it means nothing. Nothing. $1 billion to them means nothing. And that's $100 million. But anyway, or $100,000 million. When it comes to like this show, there is one family. Their piece in this is that they own all of the media. They're the media
Yes,
arm of the world, and so the episode I just
media.
watched, the family comes in a room, and they're debating who we picking for president this time. Who are we picking for president?
No.
And they had this cousin who's just a silly, dopey guy that just kind of gets dragged into everything. He's not the family, and somehow he's just in the room. And he's like, well, I really don't think that's a good... And they're like, Greg, you're not allowed to give an opinion. Shut up. And
my
he goes, well, no, the one guy goes... Vote with the rest of the people. In the election, it doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
That's where your voice matters. And he goes, yeah, but I do feel like my vote in this room has like a lot more of effect than there. And there's something there. It's like bigwigs sit in a room. They go, who do we want? I think we should go with the dead guy. He's got no opinions. The last guy, too many opinions. Made it really hard. We had to put the CIA against him. Couldn't shut him up. Let's put a dead guy in there. And the dead guy's like, you're going to give my son $100 billion? I'll do whatever you need.
It's so corrupt.
Dude, he has an island outside of China. An island outside of China. You don't just get islands for free. Did you get one?
No.
They were this close to handing them out so you could get the vaccine, but instead they where do you get an island for free? Back to Epstein.
But near China?
How do you get a
Okay.
$50 million home in New York City for free? These things don't happen. Things you can't
Because
even
you're
get
part
a
of the
gumball for free.
1%
Boom. And so the master plan is to dull you, keep you distracted, and make the dark arts alluring.
Look at Andrew Tate. Look at what they're doing to Andrew Tate, and I'm going to talk about it because
Do it.
Because
I thought you were going in the wrong way, but slam dunk it.
No, they fucking trying to silence him. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to kill him and his brother because he just keeps it so raw and he tells you how it is. And they don't like that. They don't like when you're self-aware, when you have a government of yourself and who you are as a person in this world and how to make money. They don't like that.
I'm telling you, Danielle, I, for real, experienced the algorithm turn against me the second this thing became real.
Jesus,
I
believe it.
Like, here's what's crazy.
I believe it.
When I started this thing, it was
I'm worried about this podcast now.
Come for me, baby.
I
They
know,
don't know
come
your
for
name.
us.
Come for me. But here's what I'll say. When it comes to what's made me start this thing,
Yeah.
I'm alone in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in law school, which is ultra competitive, and they're coming for Chief Wahoo. And again, I thought there was more to this character than just like, oh, I love it because I hate people. Like, it's like, no, it was something I shared with my family. It stands for the first Native American to play baseball. And it was brought to our city because an 8-year-old white girl wrote a paper to the city on why it should be based on Louis Sacalaxis. There's more to this than just hateful white people laughing at Native Americans' expense. I never heard that narrative. So that's what compelled me to start the show. And
Interesting.
on my algorithm was totally normal because I'm talking about normal things. It has no real impact.
Right. No real impact yet.
Then, and the show just was talking about talk. Then the pandemic hit. And it's like how the world for the first time ever just stopped. Like everybody in unison. I didn't go to school. Businesses were closed. Right. We all stopped for a moment. Like, whoa. Yeah. And how do you experience that and not talk about it? So, of course, I'm talking about, like, guys, this is wild. Look what just happened to the world.
Right. Like, we're in a pandemic. Oh, my God, yeah. 3
months into the pandemic, big YouTubers like Logan Paul and everybody are coming out saying, hey, just so you know, if you say these words, the V word, COVID, now these things have weaned off. But if you start saying these words, YouTube's going to silence you. And if you watch
disinformation, right?
If you watch my analytics, you could go through every video. And what YouTube does is they give you analytics based on how many users came on their own, like how many come through links that you support, or how many people came to your video through YouTube's suggested videos or like promoting it. So they show you where all the people came to your video, where they came from. Okay. And you will watch YouTube putting in as suggested videos, putting it as, on the homepage. You could see, probably 20%. The day I talked about the pandemic, oh my God, 0. And so you could watch my views just turn off. And forever, it's been trying to scratch out of this hole.
I feel like I never see your stuff on Instagram anymore either.
Oh, it's totally intentional.
It's so fucked up.
And again, that's what kills me.
I know.
Is the amount of people that are like, oh, I had to go seek it out.
And I had to go to your channel and like find you and be like, hey, like I want to be on your podcast because I know you do podcasts. And I'm like, why do I have to do this? And they're doing it to so many people on YouTube that I know too.
It's the second you break out of the matrix.
The robots.
Right. No, exactly. Like going to Andrew Tate's word. The second you break out of the matrix, because so how about this one? Yes. I'm working to possibly get this lady on the show. Mm-hmm. She's very difficult, but there's a lady that has gone through the ringer. I don't want to expand on it too much because I really want to keep it a surprise for the show. Okay. But she is the person that wrote. She claims to be the person that wrote The Matrix. And
like the movie?
The movie, like the series.
Isn't there like a book
and the Terminator. Oh, wow. And she's a very religious person, and she believes that the Terminator. She has. I don't want to get into the mystic of it because it's a whole nother episode. Sure. But she wrote these two stories in conjunction with each other, saying that AI and technology, computers, that's the Antichrist. That we've been led to believe that it's going to be some spiritual, demonic, whatever, material thing.
Sounds
but
kind
really,
of familiar.
It's exactly. And so the Terminator is like a story about Christ before the creation, the bringing of the Antichrist, and the Matrix is the world that follows the Antichrist once we're totally trapped in it.
Wow.
So when you watch the Matrix, how wild is it that it's like there's an amazing scene, and Logan. This is the divide between Andrew Tate and Logan Paul. Logan Paul to me is like a dream. That kid went to Westlake. I mean. Do you know how bad I'd love to be the kid from Brecksville that can do whatever he wants? You want to have a boxing tournament for the world, whatever it is.
Just trust fund baby. Yeah, that'd be nice.
But there's something to like, he broke out of it. So I had this admiration and hope that like a regular kid like me in a nobody flyover laughing state like Ohio can really break into making an impact. Yeah. Then you come to learn the only reason he did that is because he sold his soul. He compromised himself. And he makes it clear in the way he talks about things. So when the Matrix tells him to bark like a seal, he asks, how loud? Arr, arr, arr. And so when they all in unison in a coerced act went against Andrew Tate, this guy, his statement on his show, first off, he was just admirably against Andrew Tate for no reason. And Andrew Tate talks about the Matrix all the time.
He does.
And says this guy is a part of the Matrix. So Logan Paul's statement was a quote from The Matrix, where he goes,
Funny.
This steak could be fake,
Ah, yeah, I know that scene.
but I'm going to eat this steak.
Right.
And it's going to taste juicy.
Yes, and delicious and great and all that stuff.
And it speaks to everything.
And I know you're making it that way. And yeah, exactly. Ugh.
And so Logan Paul is a person that goes, I'll close my eyes and enjoy the steak. I'm comfortable and happy. I don't care what road. If that leads
How
us
can you live your life that way? I will never, ever succumb to that. I will never be that way.
That then goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the different perspectives of like this being your own self-aware being, right? Yeah. You can either be self-aware and have the understanding that like when I look at you, back to your point, you're probably just a fractured version of me. We're all one. So you can either look at it as we're all one, or you can look at it as I am me.
And you are you. See, that's what they want you to think. That's what they want you to do. They want you to think that you're all separate and that you're not all one, so that you just keep conniving and striving and try to get over on one. But the moment that you see that we're all one and that we're all in this together, then that's when we become a planetary civilization, and that's when we become a better world. And we're never going to get there unless we realize it. And it's sad and sickening, but that's just what they fucking want. And I don't know. I don't know how to change it.
But you know how you do? And I hate this. I strongly dislike this because it always comes back to this. It always comes back to this on the podcast. I always say this, and it feels deflated, but also it doesn't because I continue to do it. This problem's solved by having real conversations with real people.
Exactly.
Like you cannot deny making a real connection with a person. And that only comes about when you're willing to be vulnerable and you're open to growth.
It's hard to be vulnerable because, so long we lived our lives in survival mode, and we're not living in survival mode anymore. And it's so hard for people to see that. And the sooner we realize we're not living in survival mode, the sooner we're going to come to like a oneness with each other, and the sooner we're going to advance technology. The fact that you could turn off all the lights in the world and you wouldn't know that it wasn't 1950. Like literally.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so fucked up. Like we have not advanced technologically in over 200 years. It's like a technological evolutionary demise or some shit. Like it's so bad what we've done to just be stagnant, and the fact that the climate is out of control because we're burning so much fossil fuels. And people who say, oh, we should get electric cars, I'm sorry, but that's burning more fossil fuels. We need to literally get nuclear power as a main source of the power.
Demonizing of nuclear power has been the worst thing to happen to our society. We've been led to believe it's going to turn you into having 4 eyes and all these other things. It's like, no.
There has not been an explosion of a nuclear plant.
And again, that was the juvenile stage of a whole new technology.
I know.
Dude, they had androids blowing up in phones. That did not stop you from buying the newest Android.
And you're worried about nuclear power? Jesus Christ. Just worry about your phone blowing up first.
Right. But again, that was what? 10 years ago, it didn't stop you from buying the newest iteration of the Android because you have this innate understanding that was a juvenile evolution
and it was
to
gonna
this
get
technology.
Better and all this stuff. And why can't we see that when it's nuclear fusion that we need, right? Pardon me. If we by 2050, we're just literally gonna burn to death if we don't move it over by 2030. And what's gonna and I used to get mad at the newest generation, oh, they're so stupid. No, they're so smart. You'd be surprised. Some of them really are trying to change the world right now.
I agree.
I really hope that they try. I mean, some of them, I don't know.
I think a chunk of them are compromised.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be a portion that are just not with it and not going to be.
Think about how lucky we were, right? I think I'm going to give you two perspectives because I think they're on. I don't think up until this point,
I mean, don't get me
the
wrong.
newest
some of them are pretty fucking
generation
stupid.
replaced and trumped the next generation. Or the next generation trumped the next generation, and it's this cycle.
But if we always think that the last generation is horrible, like, we're going to get nowhere.
Right,
You know?
but I
there's
also
a few
think-
of them that are good.
So one, I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
They have way more technology at their disposal.
Yes.
Like, again, look at just muscle building.
They know how
My
to use it.
grandfather trying to build muscle versus a 5-star athlete today trying to build muscle, they're in two different trajectories.
Two different genetics.
They talk about a super athlete. Like my buddy Will is 100% convinced Babe Ruth would never hit a baseball today in modern baseball because
Really?
the evolution of baseball has totally gotten beyond stick and ball, straight pitches. He's like,
It's almost like mathematics now.
exactly.
Like baseball.
There's a whole
Interesting.
calculation to holding the laces, everything. So
Very true. Very
he's
true.
100% of belief that Babe Ruth wouldn't be able to compete in today's modern world.
Wow.
What does that say? But he's the best. He's regarded as the best. Take somebody like, I think it's funny, you can't be just like regularly schlubby today.
Yeah.
Because the super top athlete that works out every day, takes themselves physically serious to the nth degree. Okay, they're a titan.
Yeah.
Well,
Running 100 miles a day.
exactly.
Like what?
But
Walking,
the technology,
hiking, whatever.
the science, the understanding has also evolved enough that the regular man, the accountant that goes to their 9 to 5 every day, he could kick the ass of some of the top star athletes of our grandfather's age because all they did was like, they didn't understand the tech or the science behind it. A lot of the overstraining exercises they were doing
That's so
was
interesting.
counterintuitive, wasn't promoting what they were doing.
So interesting, yeah.
Right? So what I think
It just
is
shows you how much we're evolving, like, genetically.
exactly. So I won't deny that there's a significant evolution, and these kids
Yes.
are going to they are their starting place. They could have answers at the tip of their fingers instantly. They have AI that can create. I mean, schooling has forever changed because how will a teacher know that you wrote this and not ChatGPT?
No, that's so messed
These
up.
kids, they have so many tools that are going to promulgate them well beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I say that, but this is my narcissism. This is my ego. This is the bias of the place I'm coming from, my generation, admittedly. But I do think our generation, ours, not the one before us, not the one after us, I think our generation will be pivotal in assisting this guidance.
God, absolutely.
I think
We're
the
in a
Gen
pivotal
Z
moment right now.
and whatever comes after Gen Z, I think there'll be a driving force in the wave that takes us forward.
Don't
but I
you
think
feel the change right now in your like self and the
Totally.
world? Everybody feels it, that we're at like a pivotal moment
We
right
are.
now. Like literally in
but
time.
I think our generation will bring to the table a unique perspective that is dying off and is being created.
Yes.
Our
yes.
perspective, why do you think our boomer parents lived an entire life swindled, duped, and tricked by the CIA? Everything they know to believe.
Like my parents are so old school
before
Democrat.
you arrived, I was listening to Robert F. Kennedy, and he was talking about. Thank you. He was talking about how it's so much easier to trick a person than to convince a person they've been tricked. So once they've been tricked, to hijack that is even more difficult. It's been years and years of chipping away at my father. In 2015, I looked at him and I go, dude, they got a pedophile island. And he goes, if you say that to people in public, they are going to put you in a straitjacket. Don't you dare.
I know, my dad's the same way.
Then there's a Hulu documentary, and it's just common knowledge, we move on. And I
know.
look at him and I go, do you remember when you said I'd be in a straitjacket?
I know.
And he goes, no, I don't. Because he's lived his entire life just following, I call it goldfish syndrome. This is flashy, and then the second, we totally forget about, we
I
look
know.
at what's flashing now.
I know.
So
So true.
they were easily manipulated. It's hard to crack that.
And they don't see that, like, now things have changed. Like, my dad's, like, the old school Democrat where, like, he's still Democrat now. And I'm like, Dad, you don't want to be Democrat now. Like,
I don't even want. Yeah, how about
nothing.
this?
It's nothing what it used to be. Like,
One of two terrible things. Either, one, you don't even realize that your party has become the party of pregnant men. That it was one thing, that's how you lived your life. You're not on Twitter, you're not on the internet, and it's totally evolved away from you. Or secondly, the more scarier part is your party has become the party of pregnant men, and you're choosing to ignore it.
Right.
Either way, we have this conundrum where people that are liberal, that are like, I don't care who you're fucking or what you're smoking on your property, as long as it doesn't affect me on mine, I'm liberal to it.
That's like bigotry.
But those people are being painted as evil, hateful conservatives because they're not drinking the Kool-Aid and saying the words. You gotta do the dance. And so the other people are so afraid of the angry mob that they just wear the jersey without even knowing what the team has become, like what team they're repping and what it's become. There are old heads that are like, I never understood the people that are like, I blindly vote for this party no matter what. Because then you've removed the need to figure out what this individual's policies are, why they matter, why I support them.
I feel like that's what the old school parties
That was the old school. Don't think, act.
They just vote for it because it's Democrat. I'm like, no. Like, my dad has literally told me in the past. By the way, I retract that bigotry comment. My dad has literally told me, if you see it that is Democrat, vote for it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's not how the world works. But he literally told me, like, if you vote for Trump, I will never speak to you again.
Think about
Never
how many
give you
people.
money again.
Think
Blah, blah,
about
blah, like-
how many people can't go to Thanksgiving anymore with their family simply because. But again, they're liberal. They're open to people that think different than them. But the second they do not drink the Kool-Aid, do the dance, you're no longer my family. Scary world.
Sad though, like family is all you've got in the world. Like, how can you kick out your son that's gay? How can you make them feel like you're not family anymore just because of a certain way that they live that like you don't agree with? I mean, they're not killing people. They're not pedophiles.
Oh no, it's minor attracted persons. You're not allowed to use that term.
Yeah,
It actually
sorry.
makes bad people feel bad.
Oh, so sorry.
So wrapping it up, here's where I'm at. I do agree that Gen Z is going to, while I do think they're a little confused on pronouns and feelings, and I think they'll get back on track, they'll definitely push the wave.
Yeah.
But I do think our generation will
them
be
that.
incredibly pivotal, and we're going to forever be special in this new chapter. Because
We need to really push our ideas harder, though.
But again, what makes us special is because we had the life of a traditional world without technology.
Yeah.
You had to actually go speak to a parent in your neighborhood asking, can Bob come out to play?
Yeah.
And they snap at you, no, he's got to do his homework. And you're like, those are social interactions that make you grow. You had to be put in uncomfortable situations.
Now people won't even make a phone call because it makes them uncomfortable.
Or it's a microaggression if I go just try to chat it up with a stranger. Like, I don't like men coming up to me. We've lived in this new psychotic world where you used to be able to just go to the malt shop, meet a stranger, and be like, hey, I'm going to pick you up at 6 and take you to the strange corners of this world with no GPS and just pray I take you home at 10.
Dude, I remember one time I went on a date and this guy was on a motorcycle and he's like, I'm not telling you where we're going. This was like several years ago, right? And I was so nervous, but like it was just back then where you just kind of went with it. And I was like, it's kind of rude to like not tell a girl where you're taking her. And he's like, but I want it to be a surprise. But it was like cute, And
right.
when you think about it now, it's like, dude, that would never fucking fly. Like he just wanted to take me to the lake. Like that's all he wanted. And like that would never fucking fly today.
Here's the sad part is 80% of the guys or 90% of the guys or people, because it doesn't matter. They truly are good people, and they mean you no harm. They could be weird. They could say things you don't like, but they don't mean you harm.
Right.
The sad part is there's 10 documentaries about Ted Bundy, and now we've convinced. There's also this weird sexual attraction to women in watching Ted Bundy video. Like, I don't know what it is with true crime and women, but now there's this like fetishizing of like this scary story that men are evil, and it's like there's one Ted Bundy and a million not gonna hurt yous, and we all think they're all Ted Bundys. That's part of the game too. Is now we can't even. So we got down the wrong road. What I want to make the point is, if you try to, like, we're so lucky how easy tech is for us because we grew with tech. So now when I throw an iPhone in front of my grandma, she takes it and she's like, I don't know where to begin.
Sometimes I don't even know how to use my iPhone.
But I truly believe when we get to holograms and plugging your conscious into a virtual world, I don't think those technologies are going to be as stalemating or as encumbersome as they were for our parents or our grandparents.
Definitely.
I think we'll be easier to adapt to technology.
It's not going to be scary and robotic.
But we'll also have the element to balance of the old world, traditions, a world where everything wasn't hyper, communication wasn't instant.
It's kind of scary to think like when our generation like dies out though.
Oh yeah.
Like we're not going to have that anymore.
And how far beyond will the technology be? It's going to be a whole nother existence we can't even fathom.
I was just watching a video about how, like, will consciousness ever, like, be an AI? And we were talking about how, like, avatars, like, we're in this avatar right now, and our consciousness links to an avatar, and that's how we arrive in this world. This is called, like, the holos. It's the material world. And when we die or, death occurs, we just get transferred to a new avatar, and maybe it's more advanced or maybe it isn't, whatever, we discussed that earlier. But when if a consciousness so chooses and technology is advanced enough in the future, and maybe we're talking like millions of years, we're not even on this planet anymore, like consciousness can choose to link to an AI. It won't be that robotics is linking to consciousness and becoming conscious and self-aware. It's that our consciousness is choosing to go into robotics and using technology as an advancement to mentality and becoming better, and to eventually not even needing technology because we're going to become so mentally advanced that we won't even need to exist even on this plane or even need technology to begin with. And I think that's a great closing statement for mentality to begin with, actually.
I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time, Danielle.
Of course.
This was a great time, and I'd love to do it again. Guys,
we didn't even get to talk about the ending thing about aliens, so maybe I'll get a second round.
We have to.
And I was so nervous, too. It was so funny.
But again,
it came so naturally, like you said.
Seamlessly.
Yeah.
So, guys, if we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you can do to support this show is share this episode. As we made it very clear, we're combating algorithms, and the world's against us. So the best thing you could do, if you liked it, somebody you know has had to enjoy it too. So take that link, spread it around, put it on your Facebook, text it to people. That's the best thing you can do to support this show. Otherwise, hit the like button, subscribe, dangle that notification bell, and you can catch all of our content at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Peace. Danielle,